curveballs or anything. We're just going to talk about what you're going to talk about at the huge convention and some backstory. So we're officially live. Greetings, my friends. It's Sid Graff with the huge convention. And we've got Paul. Is it Baluch? Baluch? How do I say your last name?
Paul Baluch.
Baluch.
CH like a K. Baluch, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I should have asked that before I started saying it live. But Paul Baluch, and you are the founder and CEO of the Holiday Lights Academy, but you've got a really deep background in home services, excuse me, and from my opinion, a really great set of perspective on home services that most of the people coming to the huge convention don't have. So I'm excited that you're going to speak, and I'm excited to have a chance to grill you tonight and ask some questions. So,
absolutely.
Cool. So one thing we'll do, like as people start coming on live, I will pause and segue and welcome people and then come back. And I always feel schizophrenic when I'm doing that because I'm like, who's he talking to? Still talking to Paul? Or is he talking to me? I feel like, was it Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver? You talking to me? You talking to me?
He's
the only one in here. Cool. So you've got, from what I know, you've got a background both in the franchise world and home services. You worked with like 1-800-GOT-JUNK and helped them grow from like the $10 million range to, I don't know how big. My notes said 100 million in annual revenue, but you're a part of that ride and a part of the guy pushing and making it happen, which is really exciting. And you worked with several others as well. I would love to hear some of your backstory, like how'd you start your career and how'd you go from there to Holiday Lights Academy?
Yeah, of course. Happy to share. So I've been in mainly like home services and the franchising industry for about 17 years now, in a few different verticals like painting, junk removal, exterior house detailing, handyman space, and now supporting many companies with that. But if you rewind back a little bit, most notably, I was with an organization called O2E Brands that owns 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Shack Shine, and Wow One Day Painting.
Okay.
And during that time, when I was there, 1-800-GOT-JUNK scaled quite quickly. The goal was to be $1 billion brand in a few short years. And I left that about 2.5 years ago. And while I was there, it grew from about 100 million to 600 million in revenues, just some massive growth.
And at that scale, that's like hard to wrap my mind around. That's amazing.
Yeah, with covering all major markets in 3 countries and scaling across multiple metros and locations, and just an amazing ride. And while I was there, O2E Brands purchased another brand called Shack Shine. Okay. And I came in as one of the founding members of Shack Shine in 2015 and helped scale Shack Shine to what was about 140 units in about 6 years.
And Shack Shine is a window cleaning operation? Is that
Shack Shine is, it's exterior house detailing. So window cleaning, gutter cleaning, power washing, and then also Christmas lights or holiday lights. So it was during my time at Shack Shine, and we scaled quite quick. Like I said, 0 to about 140 units into the tens of millions in revenue. It was a fun, awesome ride. And my first year in the Shack Shine, we realized, hey, there's some seasonality to this business. What service can we offer that provides value to our customers, solves some problems for them, and levels out seasonality, keeps technicians busy throughout the winter season? And the idea was to bring on Christmas lights, holiday lights as a service. So it was about 2015, 2016, we did a pilot program for holiday lights, and it went extremely well. And the following year, we launched it to all the locations in Shack Shine. And over the course of a few years, that grew to be the #1 service at Shack Shine.
Oh, really? Okay.
The revenue, customer demand, all the metrics, average job size, everything you can think of, it became the #1 service at Shack Shine.
Wow.
And after that, a couple of years later, which was about 3 years ago, I exited Shack Shine. And from that, I've done a lot of support, consulting, advising for home services brands. So working with a lot of large franchisors like Authority Brands or Premium Service Brands or Neighborly or Happiness Brands, and helping them establish systems to grow and scale. And it was during that time I realized more and more how much of an opportunity there was in the holiday lights industry. When you're in it with Shack Shine, it's kind of hard to realize, take the 30,000 foot view and see what opportunity there is.
Yeah.
Not only until I left and was out of it for a little bit that I realized, wow, a lot of independent business owners need the systems, the structure, the resources, the business plans, the ops manual, the training videos that you get with a franchise system.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they don't necessarily want to join a franchise system. So we created the Holiday Lights Academy, which then provides like a business in a box solution to business owners who want to add holiday lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I'm quite familiar with, by the way, because I'm a customer of yours. So
yeah, I know you spent some time with John Mark and one of our awesome coaches going through the program. And really, we found that it provides that support that you get in franchising, which is world-class and amazing with the systems, resources, and everything. And we've done that for holiday lights, really essentially so you're able to scale your business, as I'm sure you'll find out in the next couple of months.
Right.
You learn from the experts, and what we've captured is years and years of expertise and experience, and put that into our program. And then mainly the biggest bonus, it just allows to skip the guesswork, and you don't have to figure it out. Go on your own, do a few installs, make mistakes, lose money. You can kind of hit the ground running right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've been in window cleaning for 21 years, but I spent the first, decade just figuring everything out on my own. I mean, everything from being one guy with a bucket to, how to hire, how to train, how to do all this stuff and I was terrible at it because that was not my forte. My forte is just talking to people, and I had to learn everything else and screw it up on the way. And then one day I was like, why don't you just buy the manual? Like, guys don't read directions. I was like, maybe somebody's written the plan and you can just buy it and then go by the blueprint. And then you can, you modify things if you want, but don't try to reinvent the wheel. And of course, that's what attracted me to your company from a business perspective over here. But that's not the point of our time together. I want to make sure people have a chance to get to know you some before the huge convention, because you're going to be a breakout speaker at the huge convention. And so let's, I have a handful of varied questions, but let's deal directly or focus directly on holiday lighting and Holiday Lights Academy. So your topic, shorthand of your topic is how to scale to 7 figures in holiday lights.
Correct.
In the holiday lighting world, industry, is it super fragmented? There are a bunch of is it populated by cowboys all across the country, or are there big brands that have it dialed and they're smoking, or both?
Yeah, great question. And what we've seen looking at the data and anecdotally, in my opinion, it's still very, very fragmented. And reason for that is it's still a relatively new industry. Like, the professionalized part of holiday lighting really only came to be about 5 or 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Before then, data shows us in the market is before, let's say, going back as late as 10 years, people would just go to Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, buy a poorly constructed string of lights and hang it up themselves. You couldn't custom cut it. You hang the extra length in your gutter. Then all of a sudden you have a glowing gutter, and there's just so many challenges with it. That was up to like 5, 8, 10 years ago, depending on where you were.
Okay.
And then around that time, some providers realized to start to professionalize the service, saying, hey, there's an opportunity here. So it hasn't been that long. I'd say up to 10 years. Some have been around for 15, maybe the pioneers of the industry. But for the most part, consumers discovered this is a professional service 5, 8-ish years ago.
Okay.
So that means it's still quite fragmented. A lot of business owners still trying to figure it out. Some doing an amazing job, some growing a little bit slower, but some offering still store-bought lights that they get at Home Depot or Lowe's. Some buying professional grade, commercial grade lights that are supplied by awesome vendors. So it's a mix of things. And I see the holiday lights industry now where, for example, the junk removal industry was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the junk removal category was created. That was only in 1994, roughly, it was created.
Yeah.
And from then came about a bunch of companies, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, College Hunks, Junk Kings, Junk Luggers. There's so many that came out of it. And now, 30 years later, it's so professionalized, not as fragmented as some other industries.
Yeah.
And I see that same thing happening with holiday lights. It's just starting to be professionalized. And in about 5 or 8 years, it'll be way less fragmented than it is now as more professional vendors and suppliers come on board.
Well,
But now it's still kind of like the Wild West. Different things happening, different colors out there, different vendors, different products, different levels of service. So there's still a huge opportunity to standardize the industry, kind of make the industry and make the pie bigger.
yeah.
Because not many customers, the data that we've seen out there, only about 50% of homeowners know that this is a professional service.
Oh,
The other
wow.
50% still assume you get your lights from the store and do it
Yeah.
yourself. And they're not aware of the professionalization of the service. So it still needs some consumer education, some more professional contractors to get out there and start installing and supplying lights. So we're right at the cusp of the growth. But to answer long answer to a short question is it's still very fragmented. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'll tell a little story and then ask a question that goes along with it. Probably 6, maybe 7 years ago, my mom, she lives in West Texas, and I'm up in Montana, and she calls, is like, son, you're doing all this window cleaning. You need to do holiday lights. You need to do Christmas lights. And I'm like, Mom, I don't even like hanging my own lights. I don't want to do that. And she's like, there's a company in Dallas that's like, I saw it in some business magazine, and they're like a $10 million holiday lighting company. And I'm like, what? Okay. But I looked around and I didn't find any information on like how to do this, but I'm a do-it-yourselfer. And I'm like, all right. So I've got a lot of customers. I offered it to my customer, like, we'll hang your holiday lights. And it was such a disaster because people bring out a cardboard box, like, here's all my holiday lights. I'm like, cool, I'll just hang those. And half don't work and they don't fit. And like, we did 8 houses or something and hated every second of it because it was a disaster. It was like, will you get some more lights to put on that tree? And we go to Walmart and it was terrible. And nobody really ended up happy at all. And I thought, this is dumb. And then, but I never, until like it was last year, I was like, wait a second. I met a couple of guys that have, not giant, but reasonably large and very profitable holiday lights business. And I was like, maybe I should take a better look at this. And then we talked to several people, talked to you guys, and I was like, oh, this is an actual thing now. What's the opportunity for, there's 2 parts. What's opportunity for the guy that's already, they've been in business for a while. We're home, the huge convention for home services, almost exclusively exterior cleaning. So we've got power washers, window cleaners, guys like that. What's the opportunity for a guy like that to add this service? And then what's the opportunity if you find somebody that goes, I'm going to ride this train as fast and hard as I can and go location to, how can we scale? I know it's a big question and a silly story, but let's go.
And to confirm, you mean like revenue and growth opportunity? Like, what's that opportunity for something would be at the huge convention? Yeah. And again, we've got a bunch of data, looked at a bunch of businesses without going through like a professional training program like the Holiday Lights Academy or others. Average business starting out and doing lights usually only does about $25,000 in revenue without going through a professional training program. We find that the average business at the Holiday Lights Academy in their first year is able to do 70 to 80,000 in revenue. No problem, because of the systems, the processes, you're skipping the guesswork.
Yeah.
We actually had a member in their first year last year do $1 million in their first year in holiday lights.
Damn. Okay.
And granted, they had quite a large power washing business.
Sure.
They were doing close to $10 million in power washing. So they leveraged their existing customers to sell them the lights. And they did about $1 million their first year using the systems processes available from the Holiday Lights Academy.
Okay.
So the opportunity is huge. I mean, it's whatever. One could be, it's the existing size of the business that's interested in adding holiday lights. If you have a big book of customers, high repeat rate, great reputation, you're going to convert a lot of those customers to holiday lights. A typical rule of thumb is easy in your first year for the average business. You can do, let's say you're doing $500,000 in your business, Sid. You should be able to do anywhere from 20 to 25% of that in holiday lights.
Okay.
Assuming you have good book of customers, great reputation, high repeat rate.
Yeah.
You should be easily able to do 20-25% of your existing revenue in lights because you're reselling this needed service to your customers and they're asking for it, they want it,
Yeah.
or they may already get it done. And
Okay.
a business that maybe is a little bit smaller or just starting out, the opportunity could be anywhere from that 70, 80 to $100,000 in their first year in holiday lights.
Okay.
That's like a first year range. Now, then the exciting part is the growth that comes after each year because the repeatability is huge. The data with holiday lights is it's a 90% repeat rate. So if you
Okay.
do 100K in your first year, you're repeating at 90,000 of that the next year. Then the next year you can acquire another 100K in customers and you're doing 190. Then the
Yeah.
following year you have another 160 repeating, then you acquire another 100. So in 3 years you could be at 260
Yeah.
just off that simple growth model if you're focusing on high quality work, repeatability, etc.
Okay. And then with the two prevalent models for that, you get the sales, you buy your lights and you get the leasing model. The best of my understanding is that your majority of your years 2 and 3 for that client, that's your real profit. Year 1, you're just getting it going. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, with the leasing model, the customer pays the same price every year. Let's say it's $1,300 year 1, it's $1,300 year 2, and so on, adjusted for inflation if you need to.
Sure.
And yeah, the first year you're investing in the lights for the customer. So it could cost $300, $350 in the lights for the customer. That's the investment. But the next year you don't have that cost, and your only cost is the 4 hours in labor it would cost to put it up. So
Okay.
the gross profit substantially increases years 2 and 3, and that's just gravy from there on in. And lights typically last 8 to 10 years on the average consumer's home.
Okay.
Depending on the area, whether it's extremely cold conditions or very hot conditions. That's why you want to take them down after about those 120 or 90 days, so they
Yeah.
last longer. But some customers keep them up a little bit longer, and the sun gets at them, and the cold weather gets at them. So, but typically they last about 8 to 10 years.
That's cool. And Matthew Miller says, "Hey, that makes sense." He said it before with the when we started talking about the leasing model. So that's cool. So that's interesting. I didn't realize or think about like the longer you leave your lights up, the shorter their annual lifespan is going to be, their overall. And we talked about this a little bit with Jean-Marc, but we're in a cold climate. We're in Montana, and sometimes 2 years ago, October 26th, it dropped to 0, and we got a foot of snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so it makes me nervous about putting up lights in the snow or ice on the roof. But the other part of that is like, I've done my own lights and they get frozen on, and I can't get them down till April because it just doesn't thaw. That's just part of the deal for cold climates. Like,
yeah,
it's not a big deal. It's just how it is.
the member I gave an example of who did $1 million in their first year. I can't share the business, but where they are based is Northeast Ohio. So probably
They
a
get
very
some snow.
similar climate to you.
Yeah.
And what they did is they actually started their installs around the first week of September. And the earlier you start, the earlier you can get at it, because the weather could be variable towards the holidays and towards Christmas. So they started their installs as early as possible, and I believe they finished up around December 1st, and were able to get $1 million in that time frame between multiple crews.
Yeah.
Now there's snow on the roof, and there's ice in the gutters and all that. The lights are kind of stuck on there, so they didn't do their removals till March, but that's okay.
That makes sense.
What really actually deteriorates the lights a lot faster is extreme heat. When the heat bakes onto the coating of the lights, and that actually deteriorates a lot quicker. The lights themselves are made for extreme temperatures and moisture and everything, but the wiring, that is the casing for the wire, heat is actually the worst. So you don't want to leave it up in a climate like Arizona or Texas.
Right.
But cold climates they're more built for their cold climates, believe it or not.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Hang on. I've got another question for you. Let me flip back in my notes 1 second. With the this is leaning into like a lot of the guys and gals in our space, a huge convention. There's a lot of people we've been doing a survey, so we're finding out, like how the percentage of companies that are over $1 million, under 250,000, all that stuff. And there's a lot of small operators in our space, right? And those are typically the guys that don't have good systems and processes. They got it in their head. They're a great technician and they know how to spin the plates, but they can't train or scale, or maybe they don't. They have to learn that. So when I joined the Holiday Lights Academy and got the processes, one of the things that really impressed me and actually scared me at first was how simplified you made things. Like the operating manual, the operations manual was like, I was expecting it to be, 80 pages thick. And it was like, nope, you don't need all that. And I asked John Mark, I was like, is something missing? And he's like, nope. Did you read it? And I'm like, I scanned it. I'm that guy. And he's like, there's nothing missing. It's just simplified. And I was like, aha. And I don't recall who I first heard it, but it's common sayings like simple scales, complex fails.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
That's the kind of thing. So I want to ask you about getting to the simplification, like how simple is too simple, how simple is adequate. But like, is that how you think, or is that your training from Franchise World?
I mean, that's how I've learned to think. And over the years, I've been in a privileged position to see and be part of so many companies scaling. And I took a look back at my experience in the companies that I helped scale, and like, what's the one thing that is a theme that helped every company scale, whether I'm involved in it or just friends, companies, or people that I meet, all comes down to one thing. And it's just keeping it simple. Simplicity scales. Standardize your operational processes. There's no need to add complication, because what we do is already hard and complicated. As entrepreneurship, it's hard.
Yeah.
Let's keep it simple. And that's what allows us to scale the business, have fun, provide a great place for people to work, amazing customer experiences. And there's no need to add complication to it. So when we designed the Holiday Lights Academy, the ops manual is not 80 pages, it's probably 40. But we took out all the unnecessary stuff that you don't necessarily need to focus on.
Yeah.
That maybe some other businesses are focusing on, but they're not scaling. They're not providing the best customer experience. Maybe they're focusing too much on the specific type of product or executing this specific type of way, where we found it's just not necessary in this industry to set yourself up for high profitability and high scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you differentiate in growing a business between growth and scale?
What do you mean by that? If I can understand the question.
Well, and this is actually, I'm just leaning on a podcast I listened to recently, and the guy just said there's a difference between growth and scales. You can grow your company, like for us in our company, we have a small company, but we grew from 200,000 to just under 2 million, but it's still, we're not scaling it. We haven't duplicated it anywhere. We grew our little unit, but we haven't done anything to press the gas down and let our systems run somewhere else and actually scale it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. On that same page, the growth, I mean, the way I've looked at it is looking at maybe it's same store growth or location growth, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50% year over year. You're investing in a growth, doing a great, phenomenal job, taking a business over 6 years from 200 to 2 million, let's say. Scale, to me, as I've seen it, is taking a business super successful in that growing location and expanding it across multiple markets, multiple countries, multiple people, multiple teams. Yeah. So to me, that scale, I know people have different definitions and look at it differently, but that's how I've approached the scale, and then the growth being within that location or team or whatever that is.
Okay. Yeah. When you mentioned earlier, you're talking about being part of riding the train with 1-800-GOT-JUNK when they went from 100 million to 600 million. And it's like I said, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that, because I do. But I could see, if you can go from 100,000 to 600,000. That's just, that's normal. But to take something that's already 9 figures and go 600%, or maybe that's not the right number, go 6 times larger. Yeah. I'm like, what the hell? I would love to hear more about that story. Just like, what's going, like, you've got to have systems, you've got to have staff, but you got to have leadership. You've got to have, how does something work and grow that fast at that level?
Yeah. I mean, I think it came to 3 things, and one of them was, I already talked about it. It's the approaching every piece of the business with simplicity at its core. And one example with 1-800-GOT-JUNK is it's just the pricing structure. You could get crazy by charging for different items of junk and how heavy they are, where they're located. All these factors could go into it. But specifically for that business, the pricing structure is just 16 prices. That's it.
Yeah.
It's super simplified. It's an eighth truck, quarter truck, this, and it just goes in that. Where before it was scaled, it was super complicated, very hard to manage. Customers didn't get it. Truck team members didn't get it. Franchisees thought it was too complicated. So as soon
Yeah.
as it was simplified, it was amazing. So simplification. The second one is a dedication to investment into marketing. And the core belief is investing 15% of your goal, your revenue goal, into marketing.
Okay.
And that allows you to spend on acquisition and awareness tactics, both digital and print, and having a robust marketing plan to get out there in the market, appear bigger than you are, own the neighborhood, be the dominant provider in that area. So huge investment into marketing to scale. And the third one is it's all about people. People focus.
Yeah.
And building a team. I see Matthew Miller's great loyal employees you can trust. Yeah. That's I've always said, and the founder and CEO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, his name's Brian Scudamore. Check him out. He's amazing. He says IAAP. It's all about people.
Yeah.
And with the relentless focus on bringing the best people possible into your organization, if you combine the best people possible with an investment into marketing and growth, and then also looking at standardizing operational processes, keeping it simple, dialing in every aspect of the business, those three will lead to phenomenal scale. Now, all very hard to do, but those three combined will lead to phenomenal scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, having a playbook or the manual and the cheat sheet, or somebody else already done the hard work designing the blueprint, having that at your fingertips makes it a lot easier for us typical guys that, get the thing from IKEA and go, I'll figure that out. I don't need to look at the directions. You're like, just familiarize yourself with the instructions first.
Please exactly. And that same principle I shared with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we've applied that to the Holiday Lights Academy. So that business I use as an example that did $1 million their first year last year. Mm-hmm. Their goal this year is $3 million, and they're tracking with that already, which is amazing to see. Just applying those fundamentals and those principles. Now executing is the tough part, and getting it done. But it's amazing to see once they're applied and the team's dedicated to it, what can happen.
Well, and last question before we start wrapping up, and this will probably lead to 2 more questions, but I love that you're data driven, because you referred to it as like the data shows, we bought data. We you have to do your homework and understand the data, because that's documentation that doesn't lie. Like nobody's guessing. You're probably familiar with this. I talked to a number of people in the Holiday Lights, because we're, adding that this year. And I was like, what do you expect? What's normal for me to expect as my first year margins? And this is not Holiday Lights Academy. It's other people in the industry. And one guy goes 40% first year, maybe 50. And somebody else goes 3%. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, can you how much should I expect to spend on labor? How much should I expect it? Like you said, your marketing, if you're committed to it, you're spending 15%. And then like first year margin, second year margin, but I swear things were all over the map.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, how do you, the data shouldn't be a secret. I mean, you've invested to know what's a healthy margin for, we can just, if, cause you were a Shack Shine, like my cleaning business, what should be my healthy bottom line? It's a business. It's not a solo operation. Like I've got, a dozen employees, not me, but somebody.
Yeah.
Would they be operating at 5% profit, 50% profit? What's regular? And then we're going to push that into Holiday Lights, because that's what we want to talk about.
From, again, the data that I've seen and experience in the exterior house detailing industry, window cleaning, gutter cleaning, power washing, always had the direction of coaching to, making goals to, and the data backs this up, is it's called 50-30-20. 50% gross profit, spend 30% on labor, 20% net profit. That's what you would aim for, the 50-30-20 rule.
Yeah.
In an exterior cleaning business. 20% net profit, absolutely. And that, and for people that are listening and they may not know, it's, revenue minus COGS equals gross profit, and gross profit minus operating expenses or OPEX equals net profit. So the 50-30-20 rule is something I've lived by.
Okay. Okay, cool. And are there margins similar in the holiday lighting, or is there a bigger opportunity?
Similar, but
Mhm.
arguably, and maybe a little bit biased, but bigger opportunity. If you look at an average job for holiday lights, your labor would be about 15%, and your materials would be off that same job about 25%. So your COGS, or cost of goods sold, are about 40% on a job.
Yeah,
So your gross profit is about 60% on a lights job. Now, this is just the first year because you're investing into the product. The second year, since the product's paid off, you won't have that investment anymore. All you have is labor
yeah,
at roughly that 15%. So your gross profit the next year is around 80, 85% on that same job.
yeah. And so if you can control your, your fixed cost and overhead, and like an example for a lot of guys that are thinking of adding on holiday lights, like the last 5 years, you pay your overhead in the winter with no revenue. Why not
Exactly.
add some? So it's not true that it's not costing you any overhead, but it feels like it because Marty, that's already coming out of pocket anyway, and you're just adding a revenue stream. And year two gets really exciting. That's part of my motivation. I'm like, oh, and another thing, one of your recommended distributors, I can't think of his name offhand, but I was on a call with him and he said, oh, there's so and so. He mentioned the guy. I don't recall the name, but he's like, all he does is holiday lights. He's got a really good business and he works his tail off for 4 months. And then he's like lives in Bali or someplace for the other 8 months. I'm like, wait a second. Wait, what? Oh,
There's a few of those. Yeah.
yeah. And like that's not necessarily my goal, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's really exciting. To think of a business that can provide you with a level of freedom. Because most of the people I know and that that come to the huge, that's why they started. They didn't want somebody else to tell them what to do. They wanted freedom. Um,
Yeah.
but they get tangled up and become a slave to their business. So guys like you can help set us free. Thank you, Moses.
I'll take it.
Okay. Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I mean, for those that have joined us or will be listening, looking forward to the huge convention, and we'll have a booth there and come meet us, chat. I will always love chatting business. Doesn't have to be holiday lights. I've been in a few different home service verticals, so just come chat. Happy to chat with leaders in the industry.
Cool. Very cool. And you guys check out Holiday Lights Academy. When I was talking about simplification earlier, and I want to be not the guy that's doing all the talking because it's about you. But when I first looked at and I went back to your website, which I have scrolling across the bottom, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that is so clean. It was like it has the information I need and no fluff.
Yeah,
And you can search on your own and look at other companies, and they're like 800 links. Looks like it was built in 1998, and I was like, I want to I just want the recipe, and don't give me all the extras. I can screw it up later on my own and complicate it. So I really appreciate what you guys have done.
absolutely. That's how we look at it too. Yeah,
Nice. Well,
appreciate the feedback.
thanks again for being on,
Great.
and I look forward to seeing you and shaking hands at the huge convention in. Hold on, I'm going to change the banner in only 21 days from
21
today.
days. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Let's get ready. Cool.
Yeah, can't wait. Thank you
All
very
right.
much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks. Appreciate your generosity with your time. And we'll see you in 3 weeks in Nashville.
Of course. Take care.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.